Hey guys, so it has been raining nonstop, so I am suffering from what can only be described as low T, so just forgive me for that. We're going to be answering a question that was sent into my question box. Let's read the question. She said, can you talk about Venus moon squaring Neptune and how do you stop idealizing people with this placement? My ascendant is Cancer. I don't have her full details, so we can't see the chart, but she gave us enough of an idea of what's going on with her. She's essentially diagnosed herself with having a bit of a Neptune problem that has translated into idealization. And I know that it's a problem because she's writing into me. She's just like, Denise, how do I stop this idealization from basically ruining my life? So in today's video, we're going to talk about why Neptune makes us idealize people, who's more prone to this kind of behavior, and how do we know that we are idealizing somebody? And lastly, we're going to try to find some clues about how we can actually stop doing this idealization behavior. So let's get into the video. Okay, but first, what is idealization? It is the action of regarding or representing something as perfect or better than in reality. And what that does is it forces us to see people in a way that is inaccurate. And that's not very helpful. But why is it that we do that? Why do we see people in this magical sort of light? Let me give you a huge clue. We have a sparkle over our eyeballs whenever Neptune is activated for us, especially if we are a Venus-Neptune person. And what happens is that we don't actually see the person how they are. We see them as their idealized highest version of themselves. And it's not like we're dum-dums. We're not doing this on purpose. This is because of the way that Neptune is affecting our charts. And Neptune has a very atmospheric quality to it. So what I mean by that is it envelops us in this magical sort of dream. And this is because Neptune not only rules idealization and romanticism, it also rules dreams. It literally rules dreams. So when we fall in love and we're a Venus-Neptune person, it's kind of like we're taking a little nap. We're taking a little nap, and I'm being facetious here, but it kind of does function in that way. So think about what would happen if you're having the most amazing dream that you've ever had in your life, where there's a fairy tale princess or freaking Aladdin himself has come on his magic carpet and invited you for a ride. Are you going to want somebody to wake you up? No, you're not. So essentially what happens is that you fall asleep and then you really have a hard time waking up. So how can you tell that you're asleep on your magic carpet ride? How can you tell that you have a tendency of this happening to you? Obviously, if you're a Pisces of any kind, but specifically if you have Venus in Pisces, if you have Pisces moon, Pisces sun, 7th house Pisces, maybe even Pisces rising, you're going to have a tendency to having that happen to you. But specifically the Pisces Venus, even though this is an exalted Venus, but it is guilty of this kind of idealization behavior. Also, if you have Venus connected deeply with the planet Neptune, or if you have Neptune in your 7th house, if you have Neptune connected to your 1st house, if you have Neptune connected to Mars as well, can also be the case, especially for women. Venus, Neptune for men can have more of a tendency of doing that. Also, if you have Venus in the 12th house, Venus in the 12th house is highly notorious for this behavior as well. As you can tell, Neptune, Pisces, and the 12th house have some similarities. There's a similar flavor to those energies in astrology. So when any of your relationship planets connect to those three energies, you're going to have a bit of this idealization going on. Oh, and lastly, before I forget, this could also happen to you through synastry. So if somebody's Neptune is interacting with your Venus or vice versa, or it could also happen if you are going through a specific Neptune transit to your Venus, to your moon, to the ruler of your 7th house. Transits from Neptune can be extremely powerful, especially when they are close, and they could bring up this kind of behavior in people. Okay, so now that we know who's more prone to this kind of behavior, we're going to talk about what are the problems with idealizing people? What is so terrible about living in your fantastical dream? What's wrong with that? So the huge first thing that tends to happen when you have this going on is that you're going to have huge letdowns in relationships. This is like you are, as I keep saying, you're living this amazing dream that can turn into a nightmare. And the reason for this is because when you're idealizing somebody, you are putting a great amount of pressure on them. You're putting them on a pedestal. And so anything that is remotely different from that expectation that you have from them is going to break your freaking heart, because this is a princess. Like, she's supposed to love me and only me. And this is my fairy tale. What do you mean that you have to work on a Saturday? Like, we had plans, you know? Or anything like that. Obviously, this can range from like, oh, you flaked out on plans to like they're actually a jerk and you couldn't see it because you were idealizing them. That's a whole other concept. We could talk about that in a different video. But right now we're talking about what happens, what are the problems with idealization? As I said, huge letdowns and disappointments. That is a huge indication that you're idealizing people, because people are not perfect. And so since people are not perfect, you cannot expect perfection. You have to know that people are going to make mistakes and that the relationship is not going to be like a movie, even though it really feels like it. It really feels like it. So it can be extremely painful and jarring. So I'm not saying I don't understand. I definitely understand, but this is like a recipe for you to suffer because people aren't perfect. The next thing that can happen is that your relationships don't actually materialize. So this tends to happen a lot with people. You know, we live on the internet now. So people meet online and they form these amazing relationships where, you know, they get to be themselves for the first time, and they're having a great time in their relationship online. But every time they try to meet, the other person just like flakes out or disappears or ghosts them or something happens and they just never get to meet. And you would be surprised how many times I've seen this happen, not only through clients, but I even remember a person who wasn't a client. They just wrote to me and they're like, Denise, like this and this and this is happening. And I was like, that's a Neptune situation. Send me the charts. Bada bing, bada boom. I looked at it and absolutely they had, not only was the person they were talking to, there were a Mars Neptune in that case. I think it was the conjunction, and you couldn't pin the person down because that's a tendency that can happen when somebody has Mars connected to Neptune. It's an entirely different video. But this is a pattern that happens. The relationship doesn't materialize. And this could be because you're attracted to people who are unavailable. They are distant. They're on another continent. They're in another country. They cannot physically presently be with you. And the reason why this happens is because distance allows us to romanticize things, because it's very difficult to romanticize somebody who's like, you know, snoring next to you at night, or somebody who's like, you know, leaving their socks on the floor. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is not romantic. In your fairy tale, like, the prince does not leave his socks on the floor or forks in the sink. Absolutely not, right? And when the prince lives on another continent, you can't think about that because, you know, you don't see the socks on the floor. So that's why these idealistic people are attracted to somebody that's a little bit hazy. Remember the distance? The distance creates the romantic haze that kind of encourages the idealization process, basically. So what's the last thing? Oh, the last thing it's not the last thing. The next thing that can happen is a bit of a savior complex. You can get into situations where when you're the idealist person, you know, and actually it tends to happen both ways. It doesn't just happen, like, you cannot have one person who's romantic, idealistic, Neptune. They usually are attracted to other Neptunes. And because you can't just be in La La Land by yourself. You need somebody else who's complicit in the dream, basically. I've seen it time and time again. So, because otherwise the Neptune's not going to have a good time. Because, like, you know, they're going to be trying to be on the magic carpet ride and the other person's going to be like, bro, I have work to do, you know? And that doesn't work. That doesn't work in my fairy tale, right? So The savior complex thing. Yeah. This can happen where you feel like you met somebody who really needs you. Like either they're just really broke or they're going through a hard time, or maybe they are suffering from like mental health problems at the time that you met them. So you feel like compelled because, pay attention, Neptune people, they tend to be very good in their heart. Like they have really good intentions. They're very kind. They love to help others. And I really connect, honestly, Neptune to Jesus and like Christ-like behavior, and having a Christ-like heart is very Neptune to me, because these people are very caring and they want to help. However, we are human beings, right? So what tends to happen is that we put ourselves in situations where we develop this like savior complex, and we feel like we are the only people who can help this person, because this person, you know, they're clearly like on a bad trajectory, so we need to help them and we need to intervene. And we end up getting sucked into situations where we're not even helping anybody and we're only just harming ourselves. That could happen. What else? And the last thing, this is the last thing that I think is very, very important when you're talking about Neptune problems. If you have relationships where you feel like you're being lied to or you're being taken advantage of, this is where I'm going to get help from my current favorite Venus-Neptune, Sabrina Carpenter. Let's look at her chart so that we could see that she indeed is a Venus-Neptune person. And here is her chart. So in her chart, you'll see that she has her Venus is actually in Cancer. It's in the early degrees of Cancer. But if you look over here, you see that Neptune is in the early degrees of Aquarius. So you got the 3 and you got the 4. And they're not opposite, but they are quincunx. And the quincunx is an aspect that people often forget, but it is supremely like disruptive. Just even hear the name quincunx. It does exactly how the name sounds. It is causing a disruption in the energy flow between two planets, right? So her Venus in Cancer wants to like be lovey-dovey, and it wants to love, and it wants to have a family. And then the Neptune is causing all these problems for her. And the reason why I bring this up is because she has this song that is called Lie to Girls. And I really think that this song, like, it should be called Lie to People. And because Neptune knows no gender. And if you are a Venus-Neptune man, you absolutely know what I'm talking about. This really bothers me because I saw a lot of people talking about this song. They were like, yeah, you know, this is what happens to women. And like, she's singing about this. And like, you know, and I'm like, this can happen to anyone. And that's the beauty of astrology, that like astrology has like knows no sexism. When you're an astrologer, when you speak astrology, you know that everybody has masculine and feminine energy. And like even beyond that, if you want to lose those labels, which I understand that a lot of people do, let's forget those labels. You'll see that everybody has a freaking Neptune problem when they're a Venus Neptune, and it doesn't matter if it's a man or if it's a woman. The patterns are going to be so freaking similar. Okay, so now let's really briefly look at the lyrics, because I think that Sabrina very succinctly gets to the crux of the issue. So this is what she says. She says, you don't have to lie to girls. If they like you, they'll just lie to themselves. And this is a very, very important thing that every Neptune individual, every relationship Neptune needs to drill into their minds. And Sabrina's a very intelligent woman because she figured it out. If they like you, they'll just lie to themselves. Remember this, because I really feel that the life of a Pisces or a Neptune person, like there's a line and there's like a very strong before and after. And your life, before you figure this out, just it sucks. Everyone's always taking advantage of you. Everyone's always making you into a fool. Everybody's always like, you're a good person. And that is true. You are a good person. 100% I know that. When you're a Neptune person, I know you have a kind heart. You have a pure spirit. You're an innocent individual. Like somewhere deep down, no matter what happened in your life, you probably saw a lot of suffering, but you kept some of that innocence and that purity that children have, because you have a sense of wonder. I know that about you, but I also know this thing right here. When you like somebody, you'll just lie to yourself. And this is not a conscious thing. You're not like sitting there like, Denise, like, I'm just gonna lie to myself. Like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care that like they're never gonna come visit me again. Like, I don't care that like I'm never gonna see him again. I don't care that like she's, you know, she's already dating somebody else. I don't care. No, you do care. But the thing is that why don't you realize that that's happening? Do I have to bring up the sparkles again? The sparkles. You got the sparkles in your eyes. You cannot see. And if you want a video on that, because I have very strong opinions about how you became a Neptune person, leave that in the comments if you're curious about that, because I could go on and on about this forever and I feel like no one's going to pay attention. So if you are interested in that, please let me know. So, okay, we figured it out. You know, she says, you don't have to try hard. She says, I can make a shit show look a whole lot like Forever and Ever. Like she'll take the shit show and she'll like, you know, cover her eyes a little bit. The sparkles take over and she's like, no, I think that there's something good here. And that's what the Venus-Neptune people will do. The Neptune relationship people, they'll do that. And so what the crux of the solution here is, how can you stop lying to yourself? How can you stop lying to yourself? Now that you figured out that remember the line that I said before and after? The before part is when people are lying to me, they're taking advantage of me, they're doing all these horrible things to me. You're a victim. Like, you're a victim of all these terrible things that happen to you. And 100%, absolutely, sometimes you are. Some people are dicks. Yeah, 100%. Some of those people deserve for you to be mad at them. But other times, it's a situation like what Sabrina is describing. You like somebody, and then you just lied to yourself. Somebody else with a magnifying glass could have seen that there was problems, that there was holes in the plot, and you just did not dig into those holes because you didn't want to. You were having your beautiful dream. Who wants to be woken up from a beautiful dream? I don't want to be woken up from my... How dare you wake me up from my beautiful dream? Didn't you see I was happy? These relationships can make you so happy. You're in the clouds, bro. Like, you don't want to wake up. So, okay, the answer to this problem of lying to yourself is actually kind of in the song. So if you go down here, she says, we love to read the cold hard facts and swear they're incorrect. So the solution is actually like, you need to read the cold hard facts and verify that they actually are correct, right? Because, let me tell you where I'm going with this. Stay with me here. In astrology, just like in medicine, the principles are kind of similar. When you're trying to fix something, when you're trying to remediate something, you are essentially trying to balance the energy, to bring it to like within normal levels. Because when something is out of whack, when something's being very extreme, that's when you're having problems. If you're being too Neptune, you're completely ignoring reality, and you're just like, people are trying to wake you up and you're in your little dream and you're just like, don't you dare. You need to, balance that out, right? So how do you balance out Pisces or Neptune energy? You got to balance it out with Mercury. And Mercury is Virgo. It's also Gemini. Mostly Virgo is the solution to this problem. You have to be a fucking Virgo on a mission. You do. And you know how like Virgos are always correcting people? They're always like finding mistakes and they're just like, actually. Virgos are like, actually. Yeah, that is their job. That's how their brain works. They're always looking for problems because they're actually trying to help. They're trying to prevent terrible things from happening. So you need to act like a little Virgo and look for flaws or look for holes in the plot where things just don't add up in your story. I know that this is your beautiful, magical fairy tale, but sometimes a Virgo could have a Virgo would be like, girl, you didn't see that coming? Bro, you didn't see that coming? That would not happen to a Virgo, because a Virgo is right there. Like, they're keeping tabs on everything. They have receipts on everything. They're tabulating everything. They're the accountants of the zodiac, along with Capricorn. Wouldn't happen to either of them. So don't let that happen to you. You need to be like a Virgo and look for those cold, hard facts. But how do we do that? How do we look for those cold, hard facts? Because when your mind doesn't naturally work this way, you need to kind of make yourself function that way a little bit more. And the reason for that is because like you don't want to entirely change who you are. Like you're still going to be the same trusting, loving person that you've always been. I'm not going to sit here and advocate like literally become a Virgo and don't trust anything, keep tabs on everybody. Look, not that Virgos are entirely like that. Virgos are very helpful, sweet people. That's besides the point. I'm not advocating for you to entirely change who you are because I just don't even think that's possible, to be honest. However, I do think I think we could change. I think that when we want to change, we can. And when we are in a situation that keeps repeating and repeating, which is what can happen when you're a Neptune person, when you're having these kinds of problems, that's the beauty of astrology. It helps us find our patterns because these are patterns that we keep repeating over and over again because they're unconscious. And so we are kind of just like functioning on our programming. And we're just like, what do you mean? Like, this is just, I didn't know that there was a choice. This just keeps happening to me. But you do have a choice. You could, baby, there's neuroplasticity. Your brain can change. You could rewire that shit. And so what you need to do, how do you start training yourself to be more of a Virgo, to notice the cold hard facts so that these things don't happen to you? There's this phrase that I really love. I really, really love it. I think it's a little bit of a Scorpio phrase. Trust, but verify. You're never, as I said, you're never going to lose your pure-hearted nature that wants to trust. You're always going to be a person that has hope and faith. And I want that for you. I don't want you to turn cold and, you're not ever going to be just a cold, hard facts person. You still got to go off of feeling, off of heart. And that's okay. So you got to trust, but you got to verify. So how do you verify things? How do you straight up verify things? Okay, so start asking questions. Be curious. Ask them questions like, oh, like you said that, we're gonna move in by December. You said we're gonna move in. So like, what have you looked at places? Are we gonna start looking for places? Do you have money for the deposit? Or like, oh, can I bring my pets? Like all of these little detail, like Virgo-like questions, you need to ask those questions. I know that sometimes I feel like I'm shitting on Virgos, but I'm actually not. Virgos will nag you. Virgos will not let you forget that you said you were going to pay XYZ bill. They're not going to let you forget anything. They're going to be nagging you. They don't care about being annoying. They don't care if they're annoying. They're doing something for your own good. And when you're in your beautiful dream fantasy, you're not going to be annoying. You don't want to be annoying. You're a fairy tale prince. You're not going to be annoying. So this is me telling you, you have to be annoying. You have to be annoying because you got to balance it out, baby. Like you can't just live in the dream. You have to take that dream and ground it into reality. And you can. I think that with effort, that's for another video. I think you can have that dream in real life. But it's not easy and it's not going to happen if you don't get a little bit Virgo with it. Okay, ask questions, get fucking curious. They said that they would meet you by a certain time for all these people that met online. They said they would meet you by March and it's now it's been 3 years, baby. Like they never met you. Like you need to move on. You need to move on. You have to wake up, pull the plug. You need to wake yourself up from these dreams that just aren't when there's no follow through, basically. You need to plan things and ask for timelines and make sure that they are living up to the timelines. And you need to literally, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is information. You need to write down the things that they said that they would do. And remember how I said plan them. You need a planner. This person said that they were going to do this by this point. Did they? And if they didn't, then you need to wake yourself up because your dream, I really think that your dream can come true. Only the people that have the audacity to believe that they deserve their fairy tale, only those people have the opportunity of ever having it. But you're never going to have it if you keep entrapping yourself, not entrapping, tying yourself down to situations that are not it. And you're the only person who could free yourself from those situations. So you have to be the one to sacrifice the shitty faulty relationship that you're in, the unrealistic, ungrounded relationship that you're in, so that you have the chance of actually being with somebody who is the dream, because it exists. It absolutely exists. And that's for another video. Actually, Neptune is very, very important for long-term relationship satisfaction. If you want a video on that, let me know in the comments, because if you can't tell, I'm very passionate about this subject. I love you so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye. Send me questions to the question box. Bye.